let us start the session without any further delay. So first, I would like to welcome for welcome remarks from Mr. Genichiro Sukada. He is a Director of Climate Change Adaptation Office, Global Environmental Bureau, Ministry of Environment, Japan. Over to you, Sukada-san.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Vinaya-san. So let me start my remarks. Yeah, distinguished moderators, speakers, and participants. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are. I am Genichiro Tsukada, Director of Climate Change Adaptation Office from the Ministry of the Environment, Japan, and warm greetings from Tokyo. First of all, let me express my deepest appreciation to IGES and IPN for organizing this event. It's my great honor to deliver opening remarks on behalf of the Ministry today, and I would like to welcome all of you. In addition, as some of you may be aware, I was dispatched to APN as the Director of the Secretariat until June last year, and I was engaged in the formulation of this IGES APN collaborative program during an early stage at that time. So I'm very pleased to welcome the launch of this initiative today. Needless to say, the impacts of climate change are an evident threat to all over the world, and the Asia-Pacific region is at the forefront of tackling the climate crisis. Building resilience to climate change impacts is imperative for sustainable development in the region. The UNFCCC COP26 held in Glasgow, UK last year, reaffirmed how important it is for us not only to reduce GHG emissions, but also adapt appropriately to climate change, thereby achieving a common global vision to reduce vulnerability and strengthen resilience as set forth in the Paris Agreement. In addition, the latest IPCC report released last month showed that human-induced climate change, including more frequent and intense extreme events, has caused widespread adverse impacts and related losses and damages to nature and people beyond natural climate variability. As you may know, the Asia-Pacific Climate Change Adaptation Information Platform, or APPLAT, is one of the Japan's continued efforts actively engaging international cooperation in the field of adaptation. APPLAT, launched by the Ministry, together with the National Institute for Environmental Studies Japan, IGES, and relevant organizations in the Asia-Pacific region in June 2019, aims to enable environment for climate risk-informed decision-making and practical adaptation actions through synchronizing and harnessing best available efforts in the region. As a component of capacity building led by IGES is one of the core pillars of APPLAT. I strongly believe that this program will well contribute to APPLAT activities, especially the promotion of capacity building for locally led adaptation, the utilization of local and indigenous knowledge, and the engagement of local communities in the climate agenda in the future. Finally, I would like to thank you again for your participation in this event and expect your continued cooperation and support. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sukada-san, for your welcome remarks. We really appreciate for this. So let me then walk you through this brief background of this session. I'll just walk you through our session. Then we will start. So this session is a continuation of our earlier session in last year Gobeshona Global Conference. So this is one of our effort to promote locally led adaptation, capacity building on locally led adaptation. And in this specific session, we are interested in how we discuss how we can localize nationally determined contribution, how we can include capacity building initiative on localizing nationally determined contribution. Will be the theme of this session. And as Sukada-san already mentioned, this is will be a part of a contribution to APPLAT capacity building pillar. And in this session, we will be having a breakout session and panel discussion, and which will also highlight cases and example that we are hoping to have a robust capacity, designing a robust capacity building program. And through this session also marks a kind of informal kickoff that of the initiative that we are going to start on regional collaboration, how we can mobilize regional collaboration to promote the capacity building on like locally led adaptation. So for this, we will start this session with audience engagement, the Mentimeter, assisted by our colleague in APN, Dr. Linda Ann Stevenson, who is the head of knowledge management and scientific efforts and deputy head of development and institutional affairs of APN. Unfortunately, due to some personal reason, she could not join, but we will be joined also by Reiko Tamura, she is senior program officer for development and institutional affairs of APN. And followed by that, we will have a two group breakout session. We will use a Jamboard. And in this context, this will be one group. First group will be group one will be led by Ms. Sita Vijayanaike. She is the executive director of Salland Trust Sri Lanka and supported by Reiko Prasan. And the group two will be facilitated by Professor Patrick No. He's APN Capacity Development Committee and also affiliated to University of Sunshine Coast, Australia. And he will be also joined by Ms. Nagisa Siba. She's a policy researcher at IGES. Then we will go through the wonderful list of panel. We have a wonderful list of panel. We'll have a panel discussion, and outcome, the idea here is like in the group out session, we anticipate all the inputs and views from the audience. You can think it as a pre-Q&A session, and the outcome of this group out session will guide the panel discussion. So this is overall idea, and then we will have a follow-up action announcement from Mr. Tetsuo Kuyama. He's a director of IGES Bangkok Regional Center. And then followed by that, we will conclude our session with vote of thanks. And I hope, I really wish and hope that you will actively participate in this session, and we will benefit from your insights and viewpoints. Thank you very much. So next, then I would like to move to audience engagement with Mentimeter. So over to you, Reiko-san.
Thank you very much, Binaya-san. I would like to share my screen with you. First of all, my name is Rieko Tamura, Senior Program Officer from the Secretariat of the Asia Pacific Network for Global Change Research. We are very happy to be the co-host of this event today. Now, before we proceed to the breakout sessions, we thought that it would be a good idea to know a little bit about you, the participants. And today we prepared a real-time online survey using Mentimeter. So if the participants could either go to www.menti.com and enter the code 84127124, which is indicated on the left side of the screen, or scan the QR code on the right-hand side. It will directly jump to the online survey. I'll just wait for a few seconds so that you can go into the survey. Okay, I hope everybody has gone into the online survey. I would like to go to the next slide. So yes, the purpose of this online survey is to get to know each other. The first question is, which region are you from? Please click the region you are participating from. I can see South Asia, East Asia. I'm seeing Pacific. We're seeing a lot of participants from East Asia. We have one participant from other region. Okay, I think we have a good number of participants today. Let me go to the next question. What stakeholder group do you represent? We have government, non-government, intergovernmental organization, local community, academia, research institution, private sector, and other. I can see that the bubbles are creating a very nice image on the screen right now. Okay, I think we have quite a few coming from academia and research institution. We have participants from intergovernmental organizations. We have 2 from other, 3 from non-government, and 3 from government. Okay, I can still see some bubbles shaping. Okay, let's move to the next question. So this is a statement whether you consider supplementing traditional knowledge with scientific knowledge will support local communities to develop more effective locally led adaptation plans. We have quite a big number of strongly agree, a few agree, strongly disagree. Okay, I guess the majority of participants strongly agrees to the statement. Okay, moving on to the next statement. Would capacity building help local communities harmonize scientific knowledge and traditional knowledge to enable more resilient adaptation planning? Do you strongly agree? Agree? Disagree? Strongly disagree? Or not sure? Okay, so I guess all the participants either strongly agree or agree to the statement. Ah, there's one that says not sure. Okay, let me move to the next question. Which article of the Paris Agreement addresses capacity building? We have one participant who responded unsure. We have Article 11. Okay, just to give you a quick answer to that, the answer is yes, Article 11. Now moving on to the next question. What are the local community needs and pathways to effectively mainstream adaptation innovation into NDCs? This is an open-ended question. Please indicate your answer in a sentence. Any answers, responses? Okay, we have stakeholder consultation, confidence, awareness, momentum, budget, self-belief. Okay, so I understand that there were a couple of participants who answered capacity building. Next response was awareness. And then we have a number of different responses, needs and pathways. Okay, let me go to the next question. What would you like to learn from this session? Okay, we have here about best practices and share lessons learned. What is happening across the AP region, the Asia Pacific region, lessons learned from cases, specific needs, realities around capacity building, innovative ideas, gaps in needs, best practices, and how to incorporate local community needs into NDCs to get them access to green technology. Okay, thank you. Moving on to the next question. What is your takeaway message for this session? For this question, we will keep the online survey open so that participants could respond to this question after the meeting. And this is my final question. I believe that we have a good number of participants coming from different backgrounds, from different regions. And I would greatly appreciate it if you could contribute to the breakout sessions that will follow after this survey. That is all from me. Thank you very much, and back to you, Binaya-san.
Thank you, Reiko-san, for your wonderful going through all this question and having very interesting answers. So let me go back to. So next, after this, we would like to now go to the breakout session. And this breakout, we will have 2 groups. And first group will discuss on what are the challenges for mainstreaming NDC commitment down to the local level. And second group will discuss on what are the capacity gaps and challenges at the local level for implementing adaptation actions. It could be in many areas like information resources, know-how and skills, access to tools and guidelines. And followed by that, we will have a common question in which that will be areas in which regional collaboration can make a big difference to address these challenges and capacity gaps. So for that, I would like to invite our distinguished facilitator, Ms. Vosita Wijnayake, and Professor Patrick Noon. And I would like to request the host to, if possible, distribute the participant equally into two groups. So see you in one of the breakouts. Thank you.
Sorry, Vinaya, let me make a quick announcement for the participants. So I just posted the message, which include the link for the jump boards in the chat box. So once you will be allocated it into each group, I hope you will still see my message. So please click the link and access the online whiteboard. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Nagisa-san. Over to you, host. Hello, Samina.
Yes, I just sent the Zoom IT a direct message. Please
Hello,
kindly.
so Samina. I'm open two rooms, room 1 and room 2.
Yeah.
So you can assign automatically, so everyone can do this.
Yes.
And
Okay.
one more thing, how many times did you stay here? 10 minutes or 15?
It will be 20 minutes.
20 minutes.
20 minutes, yes.
Okay. Yeah, it's done. So
Yes, everyone will be having a
join.
message.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I hope all of you have a very interesting session. And I think next what we would like to do is to start a panel discussion. So today we have we gathered here our wonderful panels from various institutes and with a lot of experience. And so I will, I think, go one by one panel, introduce and start to ask the question. So with that, I would like to start with first maybe Miss Professor Patrick Noon. First, I would like you to give us the a quick summary of your outcomes of your breakout session so that it will be also a reference for all the panels. And thank you. Over to you, Patrick.
Thank you, Binaya. Yes, we had a very good discussion, at least a visual discussion, looking at local level capacity gaps and needs. There was a lot of discussion about the ways and the need to combine global knowledge and local knowledge. And there was a lot of comment about how for the last few decades, global knowledge has been privileged in terms of these conversations, but there has been, at least in the last 10 years, quite a lot of pushback. And now there is a lot of co-creation of knowledge between scientists and local communities. And everyone seemed to be agreed that this was the way forward for effective and sustainable adaptation to climate change across our region, is not to sideline local people and local knowledge and local communities, but to foreground them, to put them in front and to say, well, what value can global knowledge, things like climate projections, add to the way that these communities will cope in the future? So there was a lot of that. There was some talk about technologies and the challenges associated with putting in technologies, particularly in rural areas where there might not be the expertise to maintain these things. There was talk also about future water and food security across the region. We talked specifically about coastal communities, particularly in the Pacific, and we talked about how the displacement of people from low-lying coastal areas and river deltas was going to be a major concern over the next 10 or 20 years in particular. And then perhaps the last thing that we talked about that several people mentioned in their sticky notes was the diversity of contexts across the Asia-Pacific region. So there really is no reason to start saying, oh, all Pacific Island coastal communities are the same, or all communities in river deltas in Asia are the same. There is a lot of diversity within those communities, and that diversity needs to be acknowledged. I'm not talking about ethnic diversity. I'm talking about diversity in terms of coping with environmental stress, things like community coherence. How well does a community hold together, and therefore how well equipped is it to cope with external challenges? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Patrick, for your nice overview. And just would like to add, is there any kind of, from your experience, any kind of lessons that you have to share, lessons or cases that you might say, like it's explain the existing challenges, or are there any good lessons? Would you like to share anything on that respect?
I'm not really prepared for this question, Binaya, but I mean, one of the things that I'm very proud of is several communities that I've been working with in the Pacific are now exhibiting what I would call autonomous adaptation to climate change. So I think it's a big mistake for rural communities in particular just to wait for outside help to cope with or to adapt to climate change. And a lot of these rural communities that I've been working with, coastal communities, they've now decided, and this may sound trivial to you, but it's very important. They've now decided that whenever a young man in that community gets married and they build a family home, that family home should be built up the slope and not on the coastal plain anymore. And what that's going to do over the next 30 years, it's going to see the whole community shifting slowly up the slope. No cost to anyone, no external assistance needed. And it's something that is going to be at the right pace for sea level rise. It is the kind of autonomous or community-driven adaptation that I think we should see a lot more of throughout the region. And I think one of our big problems in our region is that a lot of communities don't have the self-belief to help themselves. They think they have to wait for aid funding, or they have to wait for government intervention or an NGO to come along. They don't believe they can help themselves, but I believe they underestimate themselves in many instances. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Well said. I think that's very much correlate with what locally led adaptation is about. I think we will, continue to discuss on this, like the interesting point you have highlighted. So then let me move to Ms. Bosita Wijnayake, who is Executive Director of Salyan Trust, Sri Lanka, to let us know, to summarize the outcomes from her breakout session.
Thank you, Binay. I wonder whether I should just quickly share the screen. That might be easier to maybe, if possible.
Okay, yeah, that's also fine. Let me stop the screen.
Thank you. So we had a very interesting discussion. We started with one of a clarity need that was there, which potentially is a challenge also on how NDCs and NAP interlink. And then also when it comes to implementation, how this is going to be taken into account. So as you see, there are a few points. I'll just take a few and quickly summarize. For South Asia, the institutional mechanisms, the lack of it, or the need for coordination and implementation at national and local level being connected was highlighted. And then there's also the need for resources, which is a common one. And some of you have placed it in the middle as well, linking different aspects like the NDCs and NAPs when it comes to adaptation and actions being localized. And then the consultations of local communities as a stakeholder element in doing adaptation actions and ensuring that commitments for adaptation in NDCs are taken into account in a way that is planned as well as inclusive and participatory. And then we also discussed about how discrepancies could exist, the understanding of how the priorities at the national level needs to be integrated into the local level. For example, whether it's sectoral or whether it would be based on a different format of needs, like finances, technical needs. What else? Yeah, and then there's also the fact that adaptation is not prioritized as mitigation would be, and the understanding that NDCs would prioritize mitigation as a commitment and not look at adaptation at the same level was something that was highlighted as well. And then there's the need for the communication that happens effectively at the local level. So there's elements of translation of data, conversion it from a technical point to a local understanding level in a way that relates to them, as well as looking at the languages, the native languages, the local level languages. Yes, maybe I will go to the next one so I don't dwell on some things too long. So some of the ways that we discussed and things suggested by those who were in the group include looking at how the sectors could be prioritized, potentially identifying, say, water sector, food production for East Asia, for example, or for essentially the collaboration, what kind of sectors would need to be prioritized based on the needs, and how collaboration could happen based on this prioritization, or basically the identification of what could be the sectors for prioritizing and collaborating. And then also how collaboration could help reaching out to communities where the researchers in different countries might not have the access, but others might, or if you're doing a regional research, through collaboration, having a broader spectrum of engagement with local communities, as well as having local champions that could help build trust. So the collaborative actions could be made better, as well as the actions on adaptation being scaled up. Knowledge sharing was mentioned, technology transfer is across the board mentioned, and also sharing knowledge among knowledge producers. So maybe developing case studies, having collaborative products that could be used. That was also something, that is something else that we can take from here. Okay, if I do have a bit more time, Vinay, maybe I could just give an example of
yeah, I think, yes, same like I would appreciate if on your reflection on what Sally and Trust is doing in this regard, and what your experiences were.
Yeah, thank you. So it's always a pleasure to share experiences and work with APN and you guys. So Slack and Trust, we work in Asia and Africa, and we are based in Sri Lanka for the work that we do in Asia. And the work that we've done has built on research that started through engagement with communities, as well as at the national level. So the work that we do on resilience building, climate change adaptation at a ground level, or the knowledge product development that we're doing, has highlighted, or they have highlighted rather, the needs of local level planning processes. So what we are trying to do is linking the national priorities on adaptation to the actions that need to happen at the local level, but through more of a bottom-up approach. So for example, working in a subnational or local level, at divisional or district level, that are the governance structures of Sri Lanka in this context, and working with the government officers as well as the communities to engage both priorities of the communities, the vulnerabilities identified, and ensuring that we could work at the local level planning process on how these could be integrated in a methodology that would bring in synergies on NDCs, NAPs, SDGs, as well as climate risk mapping, as well as livelihood development. So one example I could highlight on practical action would be one of our new projects that call Ethical X, which is supporting entrepreneurship, but it's focused on climate-friendly, sustainable, and ethical entrepreneurship. So through the mapping exercise that we're doing for climate risk mapping, we're integrating how livelihoods could be there to build adaptive capacity, and then identify the national economic opportunities, as well as the resources that are at the ground level. So it's the interlink between adaptation, identification of climate risk, and then identifying the adaptive capacity for scaling up livelihoods. and integrating this to the local level policy process through the government mechanism. So in short, that's that, but we'll be happy to share more information. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Posita, for your, I think, sharing the example as well as also summarizing the outcome of the breakout session. So next, I would like to invite Dr. Hung Chang. He's a thematic climate advisor of UN Climate Development Forum. And actually, he is actually representing today the Korea Environment Institute. He's a former director of Korea Adaptation Center on Climate Change. So Dr. Hun, I think you have been working in various levels, like from the government national level to the bottom level, and you also have been in close to the like international processes like COP. So in from your experience and from your perspective, and what experiences or what lessons do we have? What challenges do you see, like in terms of like promoting local level adaptation actions? So I'd like to start from here.
Okay, thank you, Binaya. And first, I'm very happy to see you all, even though it's online. And also, thank you very much for inviting me as a panelist. Yes, based on my experiences, actually, I learned a lot about climate change adaptation, policies implementation at such a various level, from national level to down to local level, which is ground level. So I'd like to point out some of the points about what I think based on the South Korean examples, and also the experiences to the Southeast Asian countries and also other the countries in the world. So the first thing is actually I strongly believe that the paradigms are shifting from specifically for the adaptation area, is from national led the policy and implementation to local centric policy and implementation, because in 2021 our government announced that our third national climate change adaptation strategies, which is done by my supervision and my management, but it's meaning that we have experience over 10 years. So we learned a lot of experiences, and also we had a lot of try and error and cases. So when I looking at our last 10 years, and when we're setting up the new one, it definitely should be the paradigm shift. There are a lot of local voices. We have a lot of local demands about the adaptation policies. So I strongly believe that we have shifted from the national to the local area, but still we have to harmonize with the national and the provincial government to have their own the local adaptation policies. But still, before doing that, they have to assess and independently assess about their local climate risks, and also establish based on the results, they have to establish their local the adaptation policies. So actually, that's actually led some of the main challenges I'm gonna raise up later. And also, our first phase and second phase is most like project is from the top-down approach, which is higher governments set up their goals and visions, and then going down, spread down to all the different levels of the local government, and they just follow up. But now it's totally different. It's mostly the project is from the locally driven, and also they have very strong ownerships. And when you actually doing those the adaptation policies, we have several approaches from a lot of voices from the local government, which is they don't have enough data, they don't have enough information to initiate those things, and also they don't have any enough technologies to assess their future climate change risks and also their vulnerabilities. sometimes they don't have the money to initiate most of project, and also sometimes local leaders and local elected the governors or the mayors, they don't have any very weak leaderships. Decision makers do not want to initiate some of the project because they're not interested in climate change adaptation or nothing like that, and also very lack in public awareness because that's the future from the capacity buildings. Even though we have actually more than 20 times the capacity building program to the local level, but still a lot of people don't know about and also don't care about climate change because it's not gonna seriously affect their everyday life. And also, most importantly, they don't have any ownership about the most of climate change project. But even though we have, we face a lot of challenges, but still we keep pushing a lot of adaptation, the project, especially for the local area. The one of our prominent the cases about the local adaptation project is the cooling and killing road, we call it. So we placed like a water spraying system into the road. So when the temperatures reaches some certain levels of temperature, that the spraying things actually spraying all the water into the road to try to lowering down the temperature of the road and also the air. So actually that makes us pretty much efficient to reduce some areas, especially the local and also some roads of the temperature. So we have scientifically actually the results about that one. And the other main things about smart farming, which is trying to incorporate with the ICT and also AI to use less energies, which is contribute to the NDC and also produce more. And also most of people and farmers and controlling all the different systems with their cell phone or iPad or tablets doing it. So we make a very innovative idea about adaptations. The project also contributing to NDC and the other things, and also cooling fog is one of the very prominent examples of our project, which is placed in the pedestrian area. So when you have more than 38 or 40 degrees, just the fog is automatically spraying to the air, then the pedestrians actually try not to feel so hot area. Well, that's the kind of few examples we can share in the later if you want. Just contact me. And finally, what the things are important, especially for the local area, is we need actors from the local areas. I guess Professor Patrick Nunn mentioned that they just cannot just waiting until they have to act actually internally. Act more. So we need more people actually engaged in the climate change adaptation, and also we need bottom-up approaches, but still higher government, NGOs, and also local leaders. They have to all together work for the. Even though it's a small area, but a lot of actors have to be involved in that local area to improve the local resilience. I guess that's just some of the points I'd like to make.
Thank you, Dr. Hun. I think a lot of points you mentioned. I think I really like that the point that now moving from nationally led to local centric policy. I think that's very significant. And also a lot of technological, I think, advances that you have mentioned, which are applied for adaptation. I hope that's where the regional collaboration will be useful, how we can transfer such kind of high-tech innovation into a more cost-effective and like a locally customized way into other vulnerable countries. Thank you to you. So next, I think we are running out of time. And I would like to request all to, if possible, limit your response to around 3 minutes. And given we have a long list of panel today, which is very great, So I would like to invite Dr. Chi Huyen Trong or Akasachi. She is a program coordinator of Himalayan University Consortium under International Center for Integrated Mountain Development, ICMOD, based in Nepal. So Sachi, I think you have been involved in a lot of like mobilizing this network of university in Hindu Kush region. And also there are a lot of local level initiative being implemented by ICMOD and other your partners. Could you share some of your like locally led initiatives in terms of how you link the research students and other communities in promoting adaptation initiatives? Over to you, Sachi.
Thank you so much, Vinaya. Again, this is a continuation of HEC involvement in this effort from last year, Gobeshona, but also COP26. The HEC, as Vinaya mentioned, am I audible? Just to check.
Yes.
That's
Perfect.
good. Okay. So let me start, in fact, from a case of spring revival. As you probably know, the Hindu Kush Himalayan countries ranging from Afghanistan to Myanmar, the common issues, it's the changes in the precipitation, the water, the groundwater, as well as the retreat of glacier. So communities in the Hindu Kush Himalayan countries suffer from a great change of fluctuation in terms of water supply, either too much water, sometimes in the form of flash floods, or too little water in terms of groundwater, the dried up of spring. So what ICMOD, this International Center for Integrated Mountain Development, developed together with the local community is this 6 steps protocol to revive the spring in the mountains community, for the mountain communities. Now, it's not just geologists or geospatial specialists, but also local communities to work together, because the spring carries very important sacred or religious value to each of the community from one culture to another. So when the spring dried up, then some community probably think that it is due to their kind of misbehavior to the sacred god or goddesses that bestow on them in terms of natural resources. So in order to revive spring, then you really have to work together between geologists, scientists, and local communities to bring back the water. Now, in this case, I very much echo Patrick when you say that it has to be whether the most vulnerable get empowered from this revival of natural resources, whether the communities stay together. So for that, then social scientists coming in to make sure that women, differently abled people can also have access to the newly revived water resources. So women with less burden to carry water home, people who have less access to the mountains or the steep can also access the new source of water. Now, connection to what the Himalayan University Consortium does is, in fact, to put together a young generation, a new future scholar and practitioner policymakers together. So in our capacity building program, we always make sure 1/3 each, 1/3 scientist, 1/3 local official. They are not policymakers yet, but in about 10 or 15 years, they will become policymakers. And then practitioners. And by practitioners, we mean, NGOs, but also entrepreneurs as well. So these equation of 1/3 each, they come together, make friendships together, because we believe in networking that sustain beyond the capacity building program. The capacity building should not be just one-off, but it should stay as friendship for life. So this is what HEC does. We sustain this generation toward the future, not just one-time training. And then one concrete example, and I'd like to thank APN, is that 3 women fellows of HEC won the grant from APN to exactly carry this spring revival and groundwater knowledge and skills forward, even after the capacity building of the HEC. So they are actually now on the ground, and they look at groundwater in suburban and urban area with the similar knowledge and skills. And this partnership continues into the future. Let me give back to you, Binaya.
Thank you, Sachi, for such a wonderful, I think, linking this Spring Revival initiative and with this HUC initiative. And I think this formula, I think, hope everybody can follow, 1/3 formula. And so thanks a lot. So after Mountain, then I would like to now move to Pacific. So for that, I'm happy to invite Ms. Ofa Masami Kasme. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. She's a manager of Pacific Climate Change Center, which is secretariat under the Secretariat of Pacific Region Environment Program, SAPREP, Samoa. So I think I would like to have a similar question to you. I think Pacific is also, I think, a very widely distributed area, and a very wide and very widely distributed area, but also in the forefront to face a lot of climate impacts. So in that respect, like how do you see this kind of community-led initiatives being practiced in Pacific, and what are the challenges that that you have seen? Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Talofa Lava from Samoa. Again, I would like to thank you for the opportunity to discuss a locally led adaptation. I think in this session, I would like to focus on capacity building and the innovation function of the Pacific Climate Change Center. For those of you who may not be aware of the Pacific Climate Change Center, was newly established, only 2 years old. It was established in 2019 with support from Government of Japan through JICA, Government of Samoa, Government of New Zealand, and also through the Irish Fund Aid. And the Pacific Climate Change Center is aspired to be the regional center of excellence for 4 key functions, and that is one is knowledge brokerage, and that includes building relationships between producers and users of climate change knowledge in the Pacific. The second one is on applied research, and so the center is aspired to be a center that will host research projects that are designed to address specific research objectives and priorities in the Pacific. And the third, of course, is capacity building through training and learning. And the center will be a one-stop shop for the improved coordination of climate change training. And of course, will help the Pacific to more effectively learn from climate change adaptation and mitigation efforts to date. The key function that I wanted to discuss more as part of the panel today is the 4th function of the center, which is innovation. And the aim of the center is that the center will support the development of innovative products and services, which can increase resilience in the Pacific. We think that innovation is making something new happen. And in the context of the Pacific Climate Change Center, innovation means turning ideas into solutions, the application of ideas that are novel and useful for our region, and of course, have to be relevant to addressing the needs of our people. In later this year, in August this year, we will be hosting a Pacific Climate Change Center innovation exhibition. And so this exhibition is aimed to showcase the innovation solutions, which presents these features and functionalities. And we plan to organize the Pacific Climate Change Center exhibition with, of course, universities, researchers, but also partners. For now, there has been some interest already on the table to actually partner up to deliver the exhibition for the Pacific. And through this virtual exhibition, we aim to showcase successful innovation solutions and programs in climate change that address local needs and priorities. And we also expect to pilot a framework for partnership between those with the solutions and those with the challenges, with academia, civil society, the private sector. This is in order for us to support the joint initiatives related to climate change resilience and innovation. And for me, I think the most important issue and component of the event is to support the enhancement of innovation awareness amongst the Pacific Island countries in formulating their initiatives, program, and activities in climate resilience. and hence contributing to the implementation of the NDCs. I wanted to stress one important aspect of locally led adaptation and innovative solutions. An example would be if you imagine that a Category 5 tropical cyclone lands on an outer islands and small communities in the Pacific, early warning and evacuation shelters saved lives, and people could quickly reconstruct their houses by their traditional knowledge and techniques supported by scientific evidence and locally available resources. And this implies that evidence-based actions, they strengthen innovative solutions and locally led adaptation, such as maintaining local resources and preparedness against disasters can reduce uncertainty and the cost of recovery from disasters. And towards the successful virtual event and enhancement of our service for the Pacific, we will collect and analyze information on innovative solution status and trends, policies, strategies, and challenges of innovation. And the Pacific Climate Change Center will effectively use our mutually reinforcing functions, in particular capacity building, to disseminate and scale up these innovative solutions to support building climate resilience in the Pacific. Thank you.
Thank you, Ofa. It's wonderful to hear. I mean, a lot of, with the way you are promoting innovation, I think which is very important from the viewpoint that just like Patrick said, like locally, when we say locally led adaptation, local led innovation, I think we have to not just boost up the morale or the confidence level of the local people, so they are also innovator and implementer. I think that makes, and I already see the way, I think that I already see the way you say like a need for the regional collaboration, because there are so many commonalities I see what you are doing and what is, irrespective of the geographic or socio-economic differences, there are a lot of commonalities when we say about the adaptation action. So I think that's something we can probably capitalize. So next, thank you very much indeed. Next, I would like to invite Dr. Yuki Yoshida. She is a researcher for Center for Climate Change Adaptation at the National Institute for Environmental Strategies, which research institute in Japan. And in fact, the AP platform that we are talking, they are the main, they are also responsible for mobilizing AP Plat in terms of like generating a lot of scientific tools and findings and sharing the experiences from Japan to the outer whole Asia Pacific region. So in that context, I would like Dr. Yuki Yoshida-san to so give us like a kind of like introduce about this NIS activities on AP Plat and if there are any lessons. Over to you, Yuki-san.
Thank you, Vinaya-san. Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you. So I'm working with the National Institute for Environmental Studies in Japan. As of 2018, the Climate Change Adaptation Act in Japan established the Center for Climate Change Adaptation, which I'm working for. And I want to introduce some of our activities that we're doing. I'm quite confident that at least some of it will be of relevance to many of you. So the Center for Climate Change Adaptation works both domestically and internationally to promote, support, and facilitate climate change adaptation. One of the works that we have been working on is the provision of information online. And one of, I can send you the link of exactly what we are doing. So domestically, we have a platform called APLAT. It's focused primarily in Japan, but has has had more years working on localization as well. It was launched in 2016. And more recently, AP Plat focuses on the Asia Pacific region. And AP Plat has scientific information and knowledge creation, tool development, capacity development as its three foci. Today, I'd like to introduce two of the tools that we have developed. One of the works that what we do in capacity development is in trying to make information accessible to people of all backgrounds. We have, local government workers in mind, but really every type of individual without necessarily the academic or even basic training. Is it possible for me to briefly share my screen?
Yes, but just keep it brief. Yeah, we are, I think, running out of time, and I think this system automatically stops. Okay, yeah, okay. I think we can see.
Yeah, so yeah, not to go into much detail, but we have ClimateCast and Climate Impact Viewer. Both of these make future climate projections visual and accessible on maps. At the present, it's mostly at the regional level, but we are working on localizing, finer graining our information in the near future. So please check back. It's possible to compare different emission scenarios, view the latest climate data, see the climate impact on various sectors, and then directly download the data. So I guess I'll try to stay brief. I just encourage you, I sent the link in chat to actually go visit the site, experiment a little bit with the tools. I'm sure it would be of relevance to many of you and your stakeholders. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Yuki Yoshida-san. I think those tool you have, APPLAT, you have shared, I think it will be really useful. I mean, when we say like integrating technology with local knowledge or traditional engineers knowledge, I think the information and tools that we have been providing through APPLAT will be, I think, very enormously useful. And we really look forward how we can promote a collaborative manner this locally led adaptation, capacity building on locally led adaptation together with NIS. So, and then next I would like to invite our last but not least, our panel, Professor Mizan Khan. He is a Deputy Director of International Center for Climate Change and Development, ICAD, also the host of Gobeshona conference. And I think I'm sure he has he is one of the leading expert on this capacity building, as ICAD is also doing a lot. For a very, very long time, promoting this locally led adaptation. And so with Professor Mizan, I would like to ask you, I mean, based on all the discussion you have heard today, I think probably you have already made up your mind. I'd like to ask, like, for example, we are talking about like so many things, connecting regions, connecting local knowledge with the technology, and also promoting capacity building, for example, like involving youth, like Sachi says, 1/3 kind of approach. So in that context, could you give us your thoughts on what, as a regional partnership, we might do within the coming, what could be some practical step that we can capitalize within 1 or 2 years time, so that we can set a strong foundation for promoting this locally led initiative in a more regional manner, and also to accelerate this the whole agenda of implementation of NDCs, which are critical for the realization of Paris Agreement. So over to you, Professor Mizan.
Yeah, thank you, Vinaya, for inviting me. So I got to hear the discussions, particularly starting from presentation of the working group summaries. So let me, in bullet forms, let me first kind of synthesize the discussions a little, then I'll come to specific points. First, there was a discussion of whether NDCs can promote adaptation. Yeah, and adaptation is one section of the NDCs. NDCs primarily meant for mitigation, there is no doubt about it. But based on developing country demands, adaptation also has been added so that it is not overlooked. But we have other communications for adaptation, like ADCOM, Adaptation Communications, and Article 710. of the Paris Agreement, as well as NAP, National Adaptation Plan. So there is a lot of space for promoting adaptation. Now, adaptation is inherently local and regional. So based on the discussions, Asia-Pacific region is very diverse. So we have to tailor capacity building modules specific to each country and each local or regions, because one size will not fit all. This we need to remember. My second point is about linking LLA with the national and international policies. Because LLA, if we really want to have it as a paradigm shift, then LLA cannot do it alone. LLA needs to be linked or as part of the national adaptation plans, which also needs to be aligned with the international, because climate change, in fact, is a global phenomenon. So we need to, the need for adaptation emanates from international sources. So we need to have this linkage. And then my next point is about technology. Dr. Hun has focused on technologies. Yes, for adaptation, we need technologies, certainly, but that technology needs to be affordable and locally contextualized. Very high-tech, initially, in many countries, high-tech technologies may not be adaptable. So we need to consider the local uptake, the level of uptake of those technologies. South Korea is now an advanced developed country, and I visited South Korea, so I know a very high-tech society like Japan. But so we need to be careful about application of this technology along phase-based, we need to prepare the local communities for adoption of those technologies. And then my next point is about networking. Sachi has clearly mentioned about that we need to have a stakeholder partnership comprising all the stakeholders in the society, so that voice of each stakeholder interest groups is reflected and considered, not ignored. This is a good idea. And then my next point is about capacity building to focus on at the local level. For example, I am sure in some other countries also the same structure, institutional structure we have at the local level, like we have local government officials as well as local government elected representatives. So local government officials are transferable. They are posted for 2-3 years and they are transferred to some other places. And we have local government elected officials as well as civil society leaders. So in capacity building, we need to focus first on the local elected officials, people's representatives, as well as local governments, because we cannot do without the government facilitation. But local government must work as a facilitator. It is the elected local officials as well as the CSO and NGO and the private sector leaders must lead. They must be in the saddle. And we need to focus capacity building more on that group because they live in that area for ages together. And so they have experiential knowledge, they have indigenous knowledge, who can link with these modern technologies, scientific knowledge. This we need to mention. First, for initiating capacity building at the local level for implementation both of NDCs. NDC, for example, decentralized renewable energy is part of both mitigation and adaptation. So that also we need to take care of. First, I think we need to do kind of a baseline study on the specific needs of capacities in specific areas. This will not require huge resources. I think the civil societies, NGOs can help in this regard. And based on that kind of quick and dirty assessments, we can initiate kind of a long-term planning, because LLA has to be, if we really want to look it as a paradigm shift, then LLA has to question the prevailing power structure and the system dynamics, local and national dynamics. So who does what, how it is done, these questions need to be asked. That is why we need to develop a LLA plan and a strategy with longer term perspective. And we need to proceed phase-wise. Otherwise, we will not have the paradigm shift. The centralized paradigm will continue dominating. If we really want LLA as a paradigm shift, as the vehicle for transformative adaptation, what we really look for, then we need to have a plan, and that plan should be implemented incrementally as steps, as parts of that long-term paradigm shift plan. Otherwise, traditional incremental approach will not change things. So we need to, I think time is, I can continue, but I hope time
I think,
is
yes, thank you. I guess I really appreciate, I think, a lot of very useful points. I think probably it already looks like we had a good summary for reporting, and I really appreciate and also really look forward to your guidance as we try to promote this regional initiative in coming future. But I think I really apologize to the organizer that we are actually running out of time. So I appreciate if you could allow us like about 5 minutes. So I think so that we can quickly wrap up. To do that, I would like to invite Mr. Tetsuo Koyama, who is a director of IGES Bangkok Regional Center, and also he's also in mobilizing this one of the main person mobilizing this EPIPLAT capacity building initiative from IGES side. Over to you, Koyama-san.
Yeah, thank you, Binay-san. And first of all, panelists and all participants, thank you for your very active engagement in today's session at the Global Gobeshona Conference. I believe that we can gain the useful insight for our future activity of locally led adaptation initiative jointly led by IGES and APN through today's discussion. As Takada-san mentioned in his opening remarks, and also the Yoshida-san did in panel discussion, Japanese government has started one initiative, Asia-Pacific Climate Change Adaptation Platform, we call the APPLAT, as a framework for the international cooperation in the field of the climate change adaptation, together with the National Institute for the Environment Study, we call NIES. APPLAT aims to environment for climate risk informed decision making and the practical adaptation action through the synchronizing and the informed decision making, harnessing best available effort among the partner countries and organizations. We began this activity for APPLAT based on the 3 pillars, and the one is a tool, and second is knowledge sharing, and third one is a capacity building. And IGES is working for this third pillar, capacity development. The third pillar, capacity development, was launched as a network activity among the institutions, which are now dealing with the capacity development activity on climate change adaptation in the Asia-Pacific region, in order not only to provide opportunity for the collaboration, but also the enhance the implementation of the scientific-based policy activities and on-the-ground adaptation project in the Asia-Pacific region. We are now thinking to harmonize this locally led adaptation initiative with this APPLAT in the near future. At first, we plan to report today's discussion to the MOEJ, main founder of the APPLAT, and have a discussion with them how we can collaborate under these two initiatives in the future. At the next opportunity, we hope that we may inform you about the overall picture of these two initiative collaboration. Thanks again for your active participation today, and then I hope your continuous support to this locally adaptation initiative. Thank you.
Thank you, Koyama-san. Thank you very much indeed. Next, Next, I think we are now towards the end of our session. So for that, I would like to first invite the Yoichi Toyama-san from, he's a Secretary Director of APN, Japan, for your vote of thanks. Over to you, Yoichi-san.
Thank you, Vinay-san. Thank you very much for all participants here. Article 11 of the Paris Agreement indicates the importance of support and international cooperation in adaptation efforts and the importance of taking into account the needs of developing countries, especially those that are particularly vulnerable to the adverse effects of climate change. In line with this, as we approach COP27, networking to enhance local-led adaptation is an important endeavor in the Asia-Pacific region, especially for vulnerable communities. With this, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all speakers, panelists, and participants for the active participation in today's discussion. We hope that some of the important messages from the event will feed into the second Global Gobeshona conference, and that there will be impactful follow-up at COP27 to be held later this year. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Yoichi-san. So next, I would like to invite Mr. Osamu Mizuno. He's a Program Director of Adaptation and Water Area from IGES to provide his vote of thanks. Over to you, Mizuno-san.
Yes, thank you, Vinay-san. I'm thankful to all distinguished panelists, experts, and participants for attending this session, Localization of NDCs through Community-Led Adaptation Innovation in the Asia-Pacific region, at this second Gobeshona Global Conference hosted by International Center for Climate Change and Development. Like last year, IGES is very delighted to connect with this important event, and we are very grateful to the organizers for providing this platform to engage with our partners and stakeholders. As we already confirmed today, capacity building at a local level is crucial for realizing planned adaptation actions mentioned in NDCs, which is a key vehicle to implement the Paris Agreement and accelerate climate actions. In this regard, I find this workshop was very instrumental and helpful in sorting out our thinking on this important topic, deepening our understanding on the challenges and opportunities in front of us, and last but not the least, strengthening mutual understanding and fostering mutual trust among the key institutions and experts on adaptation working in this region. I truly believe that today's discussion will guide us to take concrete actions to promote locally led adaptation in a collaborative manner. We look forward to engaging in similar opportunities with you all in the days to come. So thank you very much once again for joining us today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mizuno-san. Thank you very much for your nice words. So with that, I think we are already over the time, and I really appreciate for all of your participation and active engagement today. And we really look forward to continue this discussion with you in coming future. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
Yes, thank you.